It's almost Christmas, y'all, but the season can last year long because it's dad season year long at orcacoolers.com. If you use code DADSEASON, you will save 20% off your whole order. That comes to a lot when you're getting a cooler or a tumbler, whatever it is. Be the envy of other dads in your neighborhood. Get a roto-molded cooler or these awesome tumblers. They even have one that looks like a whiskey barrel. Use code DADSEASON, save 20% at orcacoolers.com. Today's show is also sponsored by our friends at Action247.com, Tennessee's only sports book by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. There's a whole lot of stuff going on this week. I think football is happening every single day. Check out what's going on at Action247.com. Follow their socials. Use code DADS100. They will match up to $800 of your deposit up until the Super Bowl. That's crazy. There's Christmas Eve special bets. There's Christmas Day special bets. There's a Tighten Up in Thursday Night Football special bet. So much going on. There's always a Friday deposit boost. Check them out. Get in on the action at Action247.com. Use code DADS100.
You know, I was back home. There wasn't a whole lot of radio options in Podunk.
So you listened to our episodes finally?
Oh, no. I just kept hitting the seek button. But so I found, like, you think I'm going to make my kids listen to me and you talk?
Well, I mean, me, I'm okay. I'm the boring one. You, they can't listen to you on this.
But like classic country radio, man, they were just like pounding out these songs of like early 80s, I think, maybe late 80s, I don't know. Like, so I even like typed out these lines. They were so just epic. I thought one of them, she got the coal mine, I got the shaft. She's acting single, I'm drinking doubles. I mean, it just kept going. Like every country song that came on, I just kept laughing to no end. I've got a list of stuff over here I'm trying to incorporate into my at least like weekly vernacular already.
And again, this is why you are different than me, my friend. Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards. With me as always, or sometimes lately, but hopefully always, is Zeke Baker. Together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. And the hits just keep on coming. I'm not going to waste any time in introducing this person. This person is one of my favorite people in the whiskey industry. And I will say, as a long introduction, I remember going into Bardstown Bourbon Company the first time I got to go into the Ferrari of the bourbon industry, as I call it. And I walk in and I'm wearing, I went with Jared Thatcher because it was another time that I was doing something that Zeke was too cool to go with me on, and Jared was actually wearing the Diapers, Bottles, and Bourbon shirt with me, my friend who owns Boot Hill Blades, awesome knife maker, and we walk into Bardstown Bourbon Company, and David Mandell sees us in these Diapers, Bottles, and Bourbon shirts, and he comes running over like, hey, I think I know you guys. Want to come in the back? Gives us this awesome tour. We went everywhere, just opened the door to us. And I think it is just so representative of who this person is and what he instilled at Bardstown Bourbon Company when he was their CEO. He is still a board member there. He has now moved on to do some stuff with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and Kentucky Owl, and he's one of the nicest guys you'll meet in the game. Thank you very much, David Mandell, for joining Dad's Drinking Bourbon.
Well, John, Zeke, thank you very much. You're too kind. That is, it was a great introduction. I remember that day very well. I appreciate it, and those are extremely kind words. Thank you.
Well, it was extremely kind what you did that day. I mean, you didn't have to. I think it was not a normal business. It might have been a Saturday. Like, I don't even know why you were at the distillery that day.
You know, John, it's really funny because when I look back, you know, and you go back to those early days of starting a business, not that the Bardstown's that old, everything that you do the entire business consumes you. So whether it was during the afternoon on a weekday, on a Saturday night, on a Sunday morning. I mean, that's what we did. And I'll tell you, some of the most incredible conversations and interactions took place at the most unexpected times. Just like that. I mean, I could tell you story after story where it was like, you know, a Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning and you have 10 guests show up or banging on the door before the distilleries, you know, even open and before we even had the restaurant open. And the type of people that would come in, I always tell people, never make assumptions about anyone. You know, you treat everybody as if they're not only your next great customer, your current customer, and the next lover of the product. and you invite them in. And you do that over and over and over again, thousands of times, and you create a great company and a great brand. And that was the philosophy.
I think one of the craziest things for me and Bardstown Bourbon Company is if you think about the hype that Bardstown has, and if you think about what you all were able to do at the time and bringing people in. I call the restaurant the Grand Central Station of bourbon. You never knew who was going to be eating in there. You know, you could have Greg Snyder from Chicken Cock and Drew from Willet. You don't know who's going to be in there at what time, but y'all were young as a company. I mean, the whiskey wasn't even 2 years old when all these people were hanging out, going on the tours and just wanting to be in that place.
That's the philosophy. And the philosophy was that this was a place that celebrated a community of making great whiskey, of enjoying great whiskey. You know, it was neutral territory, but, you know, we built our foundation on establishing a great collaborative distilling program where we worked with everybody, you know, great producers to make their products for them and celebrate them, you know, in this environment. And it was that philosophy that drove everything. And it was what drove, you know, our knowledge. It challenged us, you know, we producing everything from Jefferson's to now, you know, Kentucky Owl, which is the, you know, the company that I'm so proud to be with, you know, in my next phase of my career. But, you know, you looking back, it was that philosophy that created that environment that brought everybody in the community together, makers, visitors, and the community of Bardstown.
And I think we are going to talk about, just a teaser, everyone. We're going to talk about how he gets to create that culture again in what he is doing with Kentucky Owl. But patience. I want the people to know a little bit more about you. I mean, you were an entrepreneur in so many different lines of work. And I know we could do a 2-hour podcast about just your whole career up until this point. But what got you into bourbon in the first place?
You know, through my career, I was really blessed with having the opportunity to work with some wonderful people and being given the opportunity to have some really great challenges at a young age. And so, you know, I grew up in Philadelphia. I went to WashU for undergrad. I went to law school at Temple. And I came out of Temple Law School and I practiced at a great law firm in Philadelphia, Blank Rome, had some incredible mentors, and ended up given this great opportunity to go to the recount in Florida. And then I ended up representing, at the time, then George W. Bush in Florida during the recount. Joined the administration after him, became counsel to chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board right after 9/11, then chief of staff of the FAA. And it was on a trip when I was at the FAA that I met up with my college roommate, Dan Lind, who was also a founder of Bardstown Bourbon Company, and Garnett Black, who worked with me at FAA, and was drinking Red Bull and vodka at the Sky Bar at the Mondrian. We said, why can't we make caffeinated alcohol? Like, well, that's like a great idea. Like, nobody's doing it. Why can't we do it? So went back, worked nights and weekends. Over 2 years, put it together. I left FAA with the support of the administrator, who's a dear friend, Marion Blakey. Garnett leaves. She's actually was on a trip at the time. She comes back, joins us. Dan leaves his job. We move into a 2-bedroom apartment on the Lower East Side of New York, and we launched this brand. And we built it on the street for 3 years. 45 markets, 5 international markets, and we really learned the business. It was an incredible experience, and that was our first foray into the alcohol business.
Is it still out? I mean, I could use caffeine and alcohol at the same time.
It is not. Here it is. Could be one of the greatest inventions of all time. So it was the beauty, the incredible story behind this is we sold the brand in 2009. And we sold it to private equity at the time. And, you know, the long and the short of it is, you know, it was not a great success story. You know, we were raising capital to build the brand. 2008 hit, which of course was, you know, the time when we're raising money from a lot of high net worth individuals, building this brand. It's fun. And then all the fun money dried up. And so it was either we were going to continue to scrape along and build the brand at this rapid pace because we had built a very large brand, or we were going to sell it. And we made the decision to sell it. And, you know, at the time, there wasn't the real controversy with caffeine and alcohol. About a year after we sold the brand, Four Loko, and you know the story there, it was a disaster. I mean, it was a real mess in the marketplace. And so we had a great, yeah, exactly. Right, Zeke? I mean, right?
He was like dodged a bullet on that one.
In the grand scheme of things, we sold the brand and we had what's called, a tail on the sale so that, you recoup, a lot of your payback, in future years as the brand grows. But after Four Loko created the mess, the FDA got involved, and that was the end of the caffeinated alcohol segment. And what do you do with that? Well, I think you heard this all the time. You learn more from your failures than you do your successes. And while I would not call Pink a failure by any means, it was an incredible learning experience. And we took that knowledge and we moved forward. And that became a big part of the foundation for our next move, which was then, ultimately into the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
And I think that's one of the things that I think goes under the radar so much. And if you're a business person and you're looking for business things, the way that Bardstown Bourbon Company was set up, it is a huge, massive organization, but it was not set up to be in the red for very long. And the way that the contract distilling was just a part of it, the collaborative distilling, that whole effort, it was getting money in the door while you were waiting for the bourbon and whiskey to age and come to maturity where you could start to incorporate it into other things. But at the same time, you were taking on money. It's not like y'all were sitting there going, we have this huge distillery, we got to wait.
We were cash flow positive day one. It's an unbelievable story. And it's an unbelievable story. And it's a story of, when you boil it all down, in my opinion, it's a story of an incredible team of people that came together. And I don't know if this ever happens, truly happens the way it happened like this ever again, but came together at this moment in time and all worked to build this incredible business. And the story of Bardstown Bourbon Company is an evolution. It's a story of coming with one idea, immersing yourselves, seeing the market, rapidly moving, growing, and taking advantage and seeing the opportunities. And it's a story of the construction company we partnered with, Busick Construction, the team we built here, our primary investor, Peter Lofton, this team, Dan Garnett, Steve Nally, John Hargrove, everybody that came together, Dan Calloway, at this time in this place. You couldn't recreate this if you tried.
But I almost feel like you are now showing a pattern. I mean, you still have your ties with Bardstown Bourbon Company. I don't want to jump around too much, but you took on running the whole Kentucky Bourbon Festival. This was your first year doing it, or was it your second?
It's my second, yes, and it will be my third next year.
But you now took that on as well and completely made it bigger, but also added more things for people to do, really pumping that whole tourism, hospitality aspect to it, from the VIP area to specialty events that are happening at night to things that are even happening offsite. I think Log still even had a concert in the middle of this thing while it was all going on. The event that we saw you at with Kentucky Owl, that was offsite. So not everything was contained in the festival area. I feel like people are now poaching you between KBF and Kentucky Owl, like, hey, let's make magic happen again.
Well, John, that's another great story of another group of people that came together, at this moment in time and made this happen. And so, for me, Kentucky Bourbon Festival was really about giving back to the community. And so this is something that I took on, after I stepped down as CEO from Bardstown. I'm currently an owner there. I'm not a board member, but I'm, one of the owners of Bardstown Bourbon Company and the co-founder. I was asked to be on the board of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and it just happened to coincide really nicely with, the time that I was taking off, during my period. And so we faced a really big challenge at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And I spent a lot of time participating in the Bourbon Festival for 5 years, for criticizing it, for being incredibly critical. And then they approached me and said, well, David, are you going to put your money where your mouth is? And are you going to help us fix this? When I got involved, we were faced with a very tough decision. We were either going to shut down the festival or we were going to refocus and rebuild. And I say that, and that's not a joke. I mean, the festival had been losing money for years. It had got, and this is no fault of anybody. It's just, it did not evolve with the way bourbon was evolving. It had become a festival that was primarily focused here with a smaller community, but it was not a festival that was really celebrating bourbon and providing an opportunity for a vast number of new consumers to try the products, which is what the distilleries needed to support something like this. And so we made the decision, it's too important for Bardstown, for the industry and for the community to let this go. So we are going to do the right thing and we're going to save it. So what did that mean? Hire somebody that really knows how to run festivals. That's where we found Randy Prossi. Incredible find. We brought him in. We did a national search. As you know, you met, Randy during the festival. He built the Gettysburg, Beer Festival. He ran the Wisconsin State Fair and he ran operations at the Derby. We created a new model so that you would come in 21 and older, real festival, tasting, interact with the bourbon, with actual bourbon, trying it, experiencing it, getting more distilleries involved. We redid the whole model for the festival. And that was the starting point for now. What we're looking at is the next, we're 30-year-old festival and we're starting now with the first year of the next 30 years.
I think y'all did a great job. I think the whole ticketing system with the media folks, that was a little confusing. I think the media folks should just get drinks. Let's be honest, right? You want those people to be posting it and talking about it, and it's helping the brand. It was very confusing. That part was a little confusing.
Let me just tell you something, John. So there are a lot of things that are being fixed. So you'll hear me preach this all the time. You'll hear Randy say it. I'm the first person to tell you that if you're not evolving and you're not improving, then your business is not moving forward.
Oh, 100%.
So we have to take everything. So we just spent the last since the festival, basically the last month and a half, collecting all the comments, looking at all this, and now beginning to prioritize what are the changes we need to make. How are we going to run that? Roll them out over what are the ones we need to make for next year? What are we going to look at the next year after that? There are so many issues, and we don't like to say things we did wrong. There's so many areas for improvement because when you look at this was literally the first year of testing a brand new model. And so what were some of the challenges we faced? Well, one, we had this in the middle of COVID. We had to cancel it year one. Thank God we were able to pull it off in year two, right? Then we had historic flooding 3 days into the festival with disrupted everything. I mean, that's a whole other story in and of itself, right? And then, we had issues that everybody else is facing, staffing shortages, the store, problems with shipping, getting things in. And we got 2 people on our staff. So when you take all that into consideration, I said this to the Kentucky Standard right after. I said, they said, was it a success? I said, absolutely. I'll tell you why. One, our goal was to save the festival. We did that. So for me, that was success. We created a new model. We got the distilleries involved. We sold out and we're moving forward. And that, as far as I'm concerned, was success year one. Now everything is going to be improvement from here out. And we want to get all the feedback, everything like what you're saying, give it to us. We're going to make this thing better and better and better every year.
It all joking aside, I 100% understand that you have a lot of people to try to make happy. It was a little bit of an inside joke because Zeke was making fun of me because I would just go up to, I didn't have, for some reason in my bag, I never got the wristband. So I just had the media pass and I would just go up to the booths. I'd be like, I don't know, I just got this thing. They didn't give me anything else. And then people would, for some reason, give me a drink. Zeke just kept saying, Edwards went and did it again. I don't know what's going on, but he just goes up and says well,
can I tell you something what's so funny about that? Because this is one of the fundamental things we're struggling with for this next year is when you look at this whole concept of the wristbands and the tabs and trying to keep track of everything, there's a great argument to be made that you have a one ticket price and includes all your sampling. And we can point to a lot of, I remember from decades ago, even when we were doing this with Pink Vodka, nightclub and bar show, you pay one ticket price, you go around, you can drink at every booth. And so what you're basically doing there is you're saying, we're going to put it on the people that are serving and the participants to just be responsible, right? So we're not going to try to collect tabs. we're going to put responsibility on the individual and the server. And there's a good argument to be made that that's a much better model. And, especially for a festival like ours, where, certainly with this year, no one was out of hand. No one was drinking what I would say irresponsibly. We had no issues in terms of people acting rowdy or, over consuming. And I think that, with the kind of festival that we're creating, that is the environment where you could have this kind of, all-encompassing ticket. And so, we'll see, but that's something we're looking at.
And I think if anybody says anything, and just so you know, Zeke has another 6 minutes before he asks a question. He is notorious for waiting 30 minutes, and we are at 24 minutes right now. So just if you are following along at home, about 5-6 minutes, Zeke will have a question. I think it's the length of each day. Anybody who thinks they're going to show up there at 11 o'clock in the morning and they're going to last till 11 o'clock at night, it ain't happening. You're either showing up early in the morning and you're going home by the afternoon, you're going to get dinner someplace, you're going out at night, or you're staying in like we did one day and watched Major League, and then you show up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We did both.
That's also another great area that we're looking at now. And you only learn these things from actually testing and doing it. So, we're looking at that length of the day. That's another thing. Should we be open 11? Should we be opening later? Should we be compressing a little bit of that time? Do we need to be pouring that long? Those are the kinds of things now that we're focused on.
But considering what the goal was and considering all the challenges, like you said, food trucks that pulled out at the last minute because of staffing, there were
almost all of them. I'm going to show you something really quick. You'll appreciate this. So I made these for every one of the board members. And this says it's a piece of the carpet that was laid out on the festival grounds. And it says, "Your leadership saved the Kentucky Bourbon Festival." And we made one for every one of the board members and the president of Busick Construction that helped us after the rainstorm came in and had the brilliant idea of going down to the local carpet store and buying every foot of indoor-outdoor carpet. They came out with a construction team of 50 people, cleared the ground, and laid the carpet in 4 layers across the mud. And that's what allowed us to have the festival. And so this was a great example of the spirit that helped us get this done. And it's a testament to everybody that's on the board and our leadership at the festival.
It was a blast. We had a great time. My hat's off to you. The thing I will say is that I think that they chose you to have this position. And I'm not kissing your butt because you're on here. One of the things that you like to do is bring people together and bring people in to collaborate. And what I saw was a lot of collaboration where, the way that it was set up, you have heavy hitters in the industry there that are all getting together and seeing each other. And, there are people from different distilleries out there giving each other a hug, saying, "What do you have here? What are you working on?" That was awesome to see. The whole makers section is really cool, where there's gifts and there, it's like being at a craft fair as well as being it's not just whiskey. It's celebrating all the things that are around bourbon.
And John, you really nailed it. And first of all, thank you. I mean, that is something that I like to do, because I think that at the end of the day, that's the only way. I mean, truly one of the best ways, if not the only way, you really create something great is by bringing everybody together. And particularly for this community and this industry, that's the opportunity for Bardstown and for having this festival. And this is one of the few places in the world, the bourbon capital of the world, where you can pull together so many distilleries, so many great leaders, so many great master distillers, and the community, and create this experience that you can't get anywhere else. And I'll tell you, for anybody that's listening, get ready for next year. Get your tickets early. Go to kybourbonfestival.com. Sign up now to be part of our email list, because that is the group that will be notified first when tickets go on sale. The tickets sold out in under a week last year. I would bet you they're going to go faster this year, even with more tickets. So kybourbonfestival.com. Get ready for next year.
And we're going to convince David to do something extra with us. So just stay tuned. Dads are going to be doing something at KBF.
And I'm in. You guys name it, we're doing it.
You mentioned earlier, the day and night segment things possibly. I think that's where you do John at day so no one falls asleep, and then night I'll come out for round 2 and we'll get things really going.
See that now you got Zeke. See, he spoke. That did it. You tell us what we're going to do for the night, and we'll put it together.
Honestly, pure coincidental. Like, this isn't a loaded thing at all, but I did randomly see an email as I was leaving work today promoting a barbecue, I guess, championship cook-off thing. So while we're going on KBF, I wouldn't want to not bring that up and give that some exposure as well. But literally just pure perfect timing as far as seeing it. And then like, oh, well, we're talking to David later. Like, shit, I may as well bring this up.
Well, Zeke, thank you. It's a great announcement. That's going to be taking place around National Bourbon Day next year. And what this new barbecue challenge represents is not only is it a great event and a bringing together of so many of the great distilleries and the teams that are going to be competing, in the barbecue challenge, and it's sponsored. It's going to be sponsored by the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, hosted by the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and it's going to be taking place on Log Still site here in Yosemite, which, if you haven't been there, is beautiful. This represents really kind of the next phase in where the Kentucky Bourbon Festival is headed. Our mission at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival is to promote Kentucky bourbon and Bardstown as the bourbon capital of the world. And so it's not just about the festival in September, it's about having events all year round, which bring the focus to Bardstown and highlight what we're doing at the festival. And ultimately, we are going to be doing events across the state and potentially across the United States that will drive more people here and focus greater tourism dollars into Bardstown. And it's a great economic catalyst for this industry and for this community. Thank you, Zeke, for mentioning that.
No, like I say, it was just pure perfect timing. And I guess all I would throw out as well regarding like the tickets versus the bands and kind of all inclusive type stuff, I would also agree. I think that's the way to go. I've always thought in my mind a whiskey fest versus a beer fest. At a beer fest, people can probably get drunk and maybe get a little obnoxious. At whiskey, they're just going to pass out or somebody's going to knock them out. Like, nobody gives a shit.
Let's move to a different side of the KBF.
That's good, Zeke, because that's one of those responsibility issues that we always talk about. Is if you get out of control, you just get knocked out, and that's something that you see supported very often. No, it's a good point, and I think the broader point is the type of customer that we bring in the whiskey community, and for these types of festivals, is a customer that is really it's a connoisseur. It's somebody that's appreciating the product, is going, and it's not about whatever term you want to use about over consuming, right? It's really about enjoying and tasting and trying. And it's about the community of people that are there. It's about learning. It's not about overconsumption. And we see that time and time again. And I think that our model, that's what we're looking closely, could very much, should consider that type of consumer, which is our consumer.
I think if anything, they're annoying the people behind the counter. So like, what's the mash bill of this? Now, what's the char that you use, rather than like, hey, can you fill this up again?
Exactly. I think that's right.
I think 100%, like the people that would be there would be more hassled or nuanced by having to go like reload for tickets, deal with that, deal with a line there versus, all right, here's your ticket price on the front end. Here's what you can expect. Like, we all know and get it. And I mean, literally, it wouldn't surprise me, and not to speak down on what distilleries or products might be there, but I mean, I literally think you'd see people more apt to be like, that wasn't my jam, throw it on the grass, go to the next booth, right, versus like, just throwing them back over and over. I think that's right.
Yeah, and that's the fun of it, and that's the beauty of it. And I think that, this is something that we're looking at very closely, because we want to make sure that we get this piece right. And we might not get it right this year, but over the next couple of years, we'll continue honing in on it and we'll get it right.
Can we talk about something at KBF that was our jam?
Absolutely.
There was something that was going on at the same time of the KBF, and this was something that you had to leave and you had to go over up the road in the back where the parking lot was, and a certain brand called Kentucky Owl was announcing the release of the Wise Man. And it just so happened that Mr. Mandell was there. It just so happened there was this, I knew Zeke would like this so much because it's actually called...
You're talking about the 19th century fancy whiskey punch that was served at the Kentucky Owl release party for the Wiseman.
And Zeke likes fancy things.
That's right.
We talked about 5 times on 5 different podcasts after that, and we said we're dying to have the recipe. But at the same time, I'm dying to know the backstory, because the next day after this event, and after that fancy whiskey punch was served, David Mandell was signing on the dotted line to go over work at Kentucky Owl. So, like, there was some magic happening with that fancy whiskey punch, is all I got to say. CEO of Stoli was there. Good vibes were happening. Everybody was drinking the punch. I think it was just good all around.
You know, John, so it's great. I'll tell you, and it's wonderful. And I am incredibly honored to be part of the Stoli team. And it's a story that kind of goes full circle. So Kentucky Owl was one of the first customers that we had in our collaborative distilling program. And it goes back to a great story of how I was introduced to Dixon Dedman, and then introduced Dixon Dedman to one of our board members who introduced him to Stoli. And that was how the brand went from Dixon to Stoli. And so for me, it's really kind of a great kind of coming together of everything, of kind of the business I started, this brand that we produce for, and now getting the opportunity to lead the development of what I believe is truly the next most exciting project in the whiskey industry, which is the development of Kentucky Owl Park, which is, we'll spend some time here talking about, but it is astounding, is exceptional. And so for me, it is about taking what we've done already and going to the next level. But I know it's been an incredible opportunity. But one of the things that brought me to Kentucky Owl was the new CEO of Stoli, Damian McKinney, who I've known in the past. I knew from my days back, at Pink Vodka, and he and the leadership and Sabina and Mr. Yuri Scheffler, who I got to meet early on. They've made some major changes at Stoli. They've created a whole new leadership team. They are bringing in some wonderful people, and they're very much focused on not only creating, and what is already a great company, but taking it to the next level. And it was that leadership team that convinced me that this was the right opportunity. And also it checked many boxes for me. Staying in Bardstown, being able to support, this community, the Bourbon Festival, bring this project to Kentucky. And obviously my other business in Bardstown is here too. So it is a coming together of everything. And it's why, I chose to be part of Stoli. And I'm so excited to lead them to the next level here with Kentucky Owl.
Because I feel like for years, and congratulations for all that, I feel like for years, the Great Pyramids of Bardstown have been as mysterious as the recipe for 19th century fancy whiskey punch that we still cannot get.
Which you are going to get.
I know. I keep saying this. I'm told we're going to get this recipe.
Oh, this is a done deal now. You're getting it. I'm actually reading the description right here because I pulled it up. Ingredients include the Wiseman bourbon, lemon, tea, citrus-infused syrup, champagne, orange bitters, fresh seasonal fruit served in a rocks glass. It is a 19th century cocktail in the same manner as a whiskey sour. We're going to get you the exact proportions. You'll be the only ones to put it out there, and life will be good.
I feel like a lot of people would love us for this.
That's easy. Then we can make a lot of people happy with that.
Neither one of us really tout cocktails too much, at least bourbon-wise. We both raved about this, like, man.
Well, the great team at Estes PR put this cocktail together with some fabulous, mixologists from Lexington, and they will give us this. We're going to put it up. We'll give it to you, and you can spread it all around the world.
Shout out to Tracy Green, because she's awesome. But we talk about the mysterious pyramids of Bardstown. And I feel like for the past couple of years, there's just been these renderings, right? Like Stoli put out, like, this is what Kentucky Owl Park is going to be, everybody was kind of unsure, like, when's this going to happen? Is it going to happen? It might not happen. I don't think it was until your name got thrown out there where I was like, oh shit, this is going to really happen. So they know what you did with Bardstown Bourbon Company and in creating that space. Are they tapping you because of that? Or is that just an added bonus to, hell, you ran transportation divisions for the government? I mean, you know how to get things done logistically and do them well. Is it just the totality of, is it the preponderance of the evidence, counselor, that shows that you are the right person for this job?
I don't know what the reason was, but what I can tell you is it's something that I'm thrilled to be a part of. So are the pyramids coming? The answer is yes. And I think one of the things that's been most exciting for me in the last couple of months as being a part of this is getting to work with some amazing people that are already in place. So Shigiraban Architects, which, Mr. Shigiraban out of Japan is an incredible, obviously, he's a world-renowned architect. And his philosophy around developing structures that connect with the environment focuses on transparency, on collaboration, on sustainability. Do these words sound familiar, right? These are the values the whiskey industry, believes in and supports. It's what I championed at Bardstown. I think this is the opportunity to take this with our architects to the next level. And so the property we are creating and developing out at the quarry in Bardstown is, it's incredible. And so, yes, the pyramids are very much in play, but we're looking at creating a whiskey experience that, again, provides the consumer this ability to be up close and personal with the whiskey making process in an environment and a setting that is unlike anything else that I'm aware of in the distilling industry. When you look at that property, 420 acres, the majority of it now water surrounding this beautiful peninsula and area right in the middle of the bourbon capital of the world, where you're using the water from this massive limestone quarry now to produce the product, to help, drive the distillery, and this kind of engagement between the ingredients and what we're connecting and what we're creating is exactly in line with where, the modern whiskey consumer is. And so I'm very excited about the vision and where we're headed.
Everything about it, from the architecture that you were talking about, but in the way in the renderings, the barrel warehouses are designed. When this is going to be built, this is going to be super, super cool.
It's beautiful. And, when you look at Shigiraban's design, it focuses on the use, much of it focuses on the use of mass timber and kind of this philosophy of biophilic design, which means that your experience and your interaction and your feeling is very much changed in a positive way by the environment around you. And when you're surrounded by natural, products, particularly mass timber in this case, it has this positive effect on you. And so it's a very interesting philosophy. And so a lot of what he looks at is developing these buildings using mass timber. They're gorgeous structures. They're sustainable. They have a really good positive impact in terms of the carbon footprint and carbon capture, all of these, these important aspects. But he also focuses very much on recyclable materials, creating recyclable buildings. So you look at his structures across the world, and he's done everything from the Aspen Art Institute to the Geneva Swiss watch, factory, to these really neat, sustainable, recyclable projects where they've created housing in Rwanda, or they'll come in and they'll build recyclable housing for victims of, hurricane disasters. So we're looking at that now for the site and saying, how do we incorporate that? For example, can we create some recyclable and temporary structures during the construction process to bring visitors in? So I'm giving you a little teaser here that nobody else has heard. How do you begin to bring the visitor in, and the influencer and the writer, and come view the construction process as it's taking place in a way where we're using sustainable, recyclable, structures to house people during this period, and then we can grind it all up and then use it in the construction process. This is kind of like the fun that we're having right now.
So how long then? I mean, it does sound like a lot of fun, but how much fun are you going to have? How long is this going to take in reality to actually get this stuff up?
Well, and so that, John, that's a great question. And so what we're doing, because I think one of the challenges with projects like this is you can get lost in kind of the magnitude of the whole thing. And so my approach is always, let's focus. Let's do a couple of things really well. Let's build, let's evolve, and let's learn, and let's continue. And so that's kind of the structure that I'm bringing to the project, where it's let's focus on building and a couple of things. We'll get those done, we'll learn, and we'll go to the next piece. So we're looking at this, John, in phases. And our goal is to get started in very focused phases that line up with the business needs for Stoli, for the Wiseman, and for the additional products that are coming.
And it's almost like I would look at it, because I have a tech background, right? So it would be, what's your MVP? What's your minimum viable product to actually get things going? And then if I were treating this as agile, what's phase one? And then what's going in the back burner for phase 2 and 3? And then even as you're going through, I mean, everything that's going on now with supply chain constraints, and you're going to have to be adaptable and agile throughout this whole process. And I say, like, how long is this going to take to get it done, knowing full well that you could find out next week that the steel and the timber you need are on back order until 2023 and you're SOL. So a lot of this is just kind of, I think you have an ish date where you want to hit, but I think it's also good to set expectations for everyone that what you are going to get in the very beginning is not every little thing that you saw on that rendering that Stoli has put out previously. I mean, that's the end state, but when that end state happens, we don't know yet.
That's right. And I think, like any project, it's a constant evolution. And so just as Kentucky Owl is evolving as a brand, as you see with the release of the Wiseman, which you were some of the first people, if not the first, to interact with the product. And I'm really proud of that product because, again, this goes full circle. We produced at Bardstown Bourbon Company 70% of the juice that went into that. And it's really a remarkable blend. And John Ray and the team at Stoli that developed that. But that's an evolution. And so Wiseman is an evolution of where Kentucky Owl has historically been, with the Dedman family, and it's continuing to build on that great history. And you're going to see this continuing evolution of the brand, just as you're going to see this continuing evolution of the park. And that comes from being immersed in it, looking at it, seeing, what you can do with it, and what people need and the demand. There's so many different components. And I think that's really the key to building a great business, is continuing to evolve and being very agile. And that's exactly the approach that we're going to be taking to the development of the park. I'm
interested in, you mentioned Kentucky Owl and the Wiseman and what's going on here. Now, is John Ray going to be pretty much the guy? I mean, Dixon is no longer with Kentucky Owl. Is John kind of going to be the head blender, then work with other people when it's appropriate?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, it really is amazing to look at this. And of course, the Dedman family and Dixon has provided an incredible foundation for Kentucky Owl, obviously, and this next chapter of Kentucky Owl is going to be written by John Ray and others. And so I think what you're going to see coming from Kentucky Owl, without giving too much away, is some really interesting collaborations. And again, this spirit of collaboration between John Ray and others. And, and who knows? I mean, honestly, John, who knows what the future holds? I'm not the one to, tell you all, because we'll see. It's going to evolve. And so, but what you're going to see is this really amazing, series of collaborations that's going to kind of lead us into the future with Kentucky Owl. Constant evolution, transparency, innovation, these kinds of, terms that we talk about also line up exactly with the Shigeru Ban philosophy in terms of design.
I mean, John and I are more than happy to collaborate. We might need a little bit of notice, but generally speaking, we're good to go.
So that's on the list, the Dad's Drinking Bourbon collaboration. And so I think, in the scheme of the next great collaboration for Kentucky Owl, I think let's do it, guys. What are we going to make?
We're trying to, in 2022, you hear it first, we're trying to brand more DDB. So we could do a DDB collaboration. Dad's Drinking Bourbon's just too long. I mean, it was catchy as hell when we came up with it, but
DDB?
it's too long. Yeah.
It's good.
So also, obviously, I would assume you don't want to give away too much like SKU product, et cetera, wise for what the Owl has coming. But park wise, I guess what have been some of your bigger thoughts or hurdles, considering, or at least I assume that everything's still going to be, distilled over at Bardstown. So you're going to have a distillery campus or park, so to speak, but no live stills. I'm not saying that's a make or break. I just think that from what most people think of traditionally, when they show up, they do a tour, et cetera, they have certain things in mind. I think it'd be interesting to hear, creative spaces where you're looking to expand in non-traditional ways of thought.
Not to cut David off from answering the question you asked him, but the still is in the rendering. So
It's going
there's
to be the first thing built.
Oh, is it? Okay, I thought everything was going to stay at Bardstown. I'm sorry.
No, and Bardstown plays a very important role as the collaborative partner for Stoli and for Kentucky Owl. That is the basis for the collaborative distilling program, to be able to provide custom distilling support. And so as we develop the next phase here, that is going to be very much focused on our own distilling operation. So the number one thing that we build at Kentucky Owl is our own distillery. And so these two will function together. And so, what is that time frame? That remains to be seen. But the first and most important thing that we build at Kentucky Owl is the distilling operation. That's what we're focused on. That's what we're looking at, and that's what we're developing right now. And it's very exciting because we're really, without, again, going too far into what our plans are, we're looking at a distilling operation that gives us a lot of flexibility, that allows us to create some really unique products. And so it's not just about one individual style. We're looking at developing a system that will allow us to work with other distillers from other countries. We're looking at a system that will allow us to create different styles of whiskey and different styles, within that Irish style, whether it's Scottish style. You can create a system that gives you a lot of flexibility in what you create. So this is where we're looking in terms of kind of the next level of innovation for us.
And I would also think that it would be in your best interest, if you're looking at flexibility, to not necessarily cut off any, maybe pare it down a little bit at Bardstown, because that you've had whiskey now that is a few years ahead of whatever you're going to be putting out at Kentucky Owl Park for Kentucky Owl. And so for a guy that was at a company that likes to blend multiple years together, multiple mash bills together, it's not a bad thing to have some older whiskey hanging out there that you can actually blend in with some younger whiskey when it comes to time.
John, it's all the above. So there is no sort of Bardstown for this, or, it's all part of the strategy for Kentucky Owl, and being able to have, whether you're acquiring aged whiskey for blends, whether you're producing in different locations, whether you're producing at your own location, this is the future. It's not even the future. This is where bourbon has been evolving to over the last several years. It's where it's going. It's an important component, particularly for a new and evolving company. You have to have everything on the table in terms of, helping you create the assets, for your brand and for the company.
I'm saying these things as observations, and David, I know you're not necessarily in the position to confirm or deny, but Zeke, I'm just throwing this out there for you. Pretend David isn't here for a second. Being the only whiskey brand in Stoli's portfolio puts them in an incredibly unique position, when David says those things like the Irish whiskey style, or, hey, it could be a Polish whiskey style. There's all sorts of different things that are out there. And I think my guess is you're going to see a lot of different things come through Bardstown, because it is a unique opportunity for Stoli to position themselves in the whiskey game, having a 420-acre park that's connected to your collaborative distilling operation that they're also working with. There's just a lot of options for them.
Yeah, I somewhere in my notes, you could literally blend these things to say directions with a lot of S's, upcoming SKUs with a lot of S's, and then also, lifestyle branding. We've talked about that, a few times now recently, just because bourbon, whiskey, whatever you want to go with as far as like the generic term, it's evolved to that, or at least is evolving towards that direction. I can't imagine any entrepreneur would not want to take advantage or seek that avenue. David, I'll leave those as very vague questions. You can pitch anything back you want. I understand there's plenty of things you guys have to keep under the hat, but perspective wise, those are things I think we usually enjoy, just seeing like what resonates to the other side of the coin. Because
just blink once if we're onto it.
You're definitely onto it, but what I'll tell you is what I think is really, really exciting for the future is what we're going to create at the park and what we're going to create at the distilling operation at the park. And yes, of course, Bardstown plays a very important role, as our collaborative partner. But the focus on innovation is going to be at the park, what we create at the park, and the experience, frankly, that we create there. And that's where you really get into what that consumer experience is going to be like when you venture into the middle of this 420-acre quarry with a distillery out on a peninsula surrounded by water, and you're using all of the natural elements there in your production and the stunning beauty that is there. And literally, this is one of the things that I've loved from the beginning of this project, and I stood out there during the groundbreaking in 2017, is there is nothing else like it. Not only in Kentucky, in the United States, I don't think it's too bold of a statement to say no company has built a distillery on a property like this in the world. If they have, it's certainly in the top 3. But it is, when you see this, and so John and Zeke, open invitation. As soon as you get down here, you let me know. You get a private tour with me. We'll go out on the boat and we will go into the water around the lakes, and you will see this. And then you'll have to report back to everybody whether I'm correct or not. But it is a stunning, stunning piece of property.
Can we go around the lakes and interview?
Most people, even the people that live in Bardstown and have lived here their entire lives, because these lakes have only filled in the last 18 months. Remember, this was an empty quarry. Most people have no idea this is here. You cannot see it from the road. What you see from the road is like just a little tease. It's like, it's nothing. You have to drive back, go into the property, and then it kind of opens up and you see it. And I would venture to guess that almost nobody knows it's there.
I think we should do a podcast on site, just the 3 of us, and we could talk about it. We could basically go mobile. I can hold and go battery powered, and we could just sit out there on the boat and do a podcast together.
If it's summertime, though, for real, and we're on lakes, inner tubes.
We go on ice skates.
I just want to try to kick John off of his tube and someone recorded it.
I'm stocky. You ain't kicking me off.
I got long legs, fool.
Zeke, I'm betting on John on this one.
You do have much more of a chance because I can't ice skate. So if you want to knock me down, that's the time to get me up there.
Oh, man. No, I would feel bad because you crack the ice and you go in, then I got to pull you out. Then I go in trying to pull you out. Then somebody's got to pull both of us out. The health implications are not good.
David, aren't you so glad Zeke finally woke up?
Yeah, the things that get him excited. This is a good topic. Who's going in the ice first and where the liability rests? I mean,
it's the little things. Bourbon's the bond that ties, but it's always, secondary or tertiary.
Zeke is like
having a good time.
He's looking at all the risk factors for us.
I would say, David, in some ways, you said enough to keep us guessing. In some ways, you said it all. But more importantly, I am very happy throughout the years to call you a friend. And I am very happy to see all these successes happen for you and see good things happening to good people. And I know this is going to be the first of many times you come on Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Where should people be looking for the Wiseman? Is that out everywhere now?
It is rolling out across the country. It's allocated. It is, it's an amazing product. And I don't say that very easily. I truthfully, and this is coming from somebody that's spent a lot of time trying a lot of products, especially ones that we created, I was really surprised. And I mean that in the best way, especially from anybody from Stoli that's listening. I was really surprised at how exceptional this product is. And it's complex, but it's also smooth. It's also incredibly drinkable. It's got these great notes that give it a little bit of bite, but with this wonderful smoothness. And that comes from the blend of rye, wheat, and then the 8.5 and 5.5-year-old aged products is blended in it. John Ray did a beautiful job with this product. I think it's something that really you've got to try, you've got to enjoy, and then make your, assessment of it. But I think it is a wonderful sipping bourbon. But, all that said, it's rolling out around the country. It's not easy to get right now. It's on allocation. It's selling out very quickly, but look for it. And, you'll see more of it next year too.
Yeah, no, I mean, for his, a first big splash of a blend, and to do it on that size of a, macro scale, like bravo,
And I think it's great to see a Kentucky Owl shelfer. It's been such a luxury brand. I think having something that's more accessible that brings more of that community into the fold of actually being able to enjoy a Kentucky Owl product. I thought that was just a killer move by y'all, and can't wait to see what else Kentucky Owl does. I know we have David up late, and I know we could talk forever, but David, thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to do it again, and we can't wait to get up. Sometime in early 2022, we will get up there and come see you and go tour the property with you.
Well, it's my pleasure. First of all, again, John, John, thank you for the kind words. I consider you a great friend too. That's the beauty of this community. It's the beauty of what you guys do. I think we just spend a couple of moments here just recognizing what you guys do, because I think that is so important for the community, bringing people together, talking about products, sharing experiences, sharing opinions. This is what it's all about at the end of the day. And I say this all the time to people, this isn't about like critics and criticizing products. And I think a lot of this gets kind of caught up. It's about people giving opinions and sharing and talking. That's what's great about whiskey. It's what's great about this industry. One thing that one person likes is something that somebody doesn't like, and looking and hunting. This is what I love about this. It's what, this doesn't really exist in all categories of spirits, right? We don't talk about gin this way. We don't talk about vodka this way. Nobody's talking about like hunting and tasting, certain categories. It's very much a part of whiskey and the fabric of whiskey. You guys play an incredible role in that. And so,
bro, did you find those limited edition allocated botanicals?
Exactly. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different, right? And so hats off to what you guys have done, the community you've built, the followers. Anything you need, anytime, you let me know. We do anything for you guys.
Thank you so much for that. And go ahead and find Kentucky Owl everywhere. You can find the dads on Facebook at Dads Drink Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads, Instagram at Dads Drinking Bourbon. Please leave us an open and honest review like we leave open and honest reviews about the whiskey we drink. David, thank you again. Zeke, where else can the folks find us?
Most days, good old Nashville, Tennessee. But if there's a very cold front, icy front, etc. coming through, we might go get some ice skates and go up to the pond. I can only hope to see what happens.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Thank you, guys.